When I was in college, there were a couple of students who used to excel in academics. They would have GPA of straight 10 out of 10 or 9.9 out of 10. And you would imagine that somebody who is doing so well would be studying day and night, and they would probably never be going for sports or anything else. And yet, in a vast majority of cases, you know what? That wasn't true. In fact, if you looked at the number of hours that students used to spend studying or in library or whatever, you would find no major difference between people who scored 10 out of 10 or those who got 6 or 7 out of 10. I'm talking about the GPA, right? The same phenomenon we observe even in our workplace. There are some people who get their work done very efficiently, and there are some who will be sitting till late in the night, and every day they seem like they're working till 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and yet you don't see that much output. In fact, Cal Newport, who's a very famous author, he wrote Deepwork. He has written some 7 or 8 books. He's a full-time professor of computer science at Georgetown. He writes regularly for his own blog. He writes for the New Yorker and other magazines. He also has a podcast. And all of it together, you can imagine, is a lot of work and a lot of responsibility. Naturally, one would guess he might be working till maybe like 12, 14, 16 hours a day. No. He very famously does not work past 5:30 p.m. Now, the question we should be asking is, what is it that differentiates these people who are doing so much? They produce so much output and very meaningful, high quality output. And they are very successful without really slogging. And then there are the other people who are slogging so much and yet there is nothing to show for it. Now, it turns out that this can be explained by one simple factor. And no, that is not intelligence. Often our first guess is, oh, these people must be like very intelligent. And of course, that could be relevant in different ways. But I can assure you, I have seen enough people who are very intelligent, and they also fall in this trap of working very long hours, and yet they don't really produce very good, or they don't produce proportionate output. In fact, they may do good work, but they probably maybe work 20, 30% longer than some other people who get the same outcome in much less work. So the question is then, what's the real differentiator? Here is a very simple but powerful idea from neuroscience. It is about how our attention works, and it is about how we handle or how we manage our attention. Now, to understand how our attention goes to something, I want to introduce 2 concepts. One is called bottom-up attention, other is called top-down attention. Let's understand what each of these are. In her book called Wrapped, Winifred Gallagher talks about this, but let me explain. Let's say you are sitting at an airport waiting for the next flight. And now you don't have anything in particular to do. You're just biding your time. And then suddenly there is an announcement. Now your attention is grabbed. Now you're paying attention to that. After the announcement, your mind goes somewhere else. You see somebody standing at the coffee shop. Your attention goes there. It jumps from one thing to another because there is nothing specific that you are looking forward to give your attention to. So here what's happening is something from outside is grabbing your attention because it's too loud, maybe like that announcement, or there is some novelty or something about that particular stimulus that stands out. Some change, especially if you see around you, something is changing, something sounds dangerous, something sounds interesting, it'll grab your attention. On the flip side, or on the other hand, there is another way you give your attention, which is that you decide that I am going to give my attention to this particular thing. Let's say you have a deadline coming up. 6 hours later, you have to submit a document to your boss or to your manager or somebody, and now you have your task cut out. What do? Now you get rid of all the distractions and you just focus on that one thing, which means now you are deciding where your attention should be, and you take your attention to the task and you keep it there. Of course, you will take breaks, etc. But for the next couple of hours, broadly, your attention is on that task. You don't let it get diverted too much by other things. And then in those 6 hours, you get more work done than you would probably in maybe like over 16 or 20 or even like 50 hours. Now, there are 2 things happening here. One is that when your top-down attention goes to something and you get really focused, you're much more efficient. But there is another aspect which I want to talk about today, which is that when our attention is grabbed by something in a bottom-up manner, what's happening is the loudest thing around you, so to say, is grabbing your attention. So now in the context of work, if you start your workday and when you start, you do not have any clear sense of what your priorities are, what tasks matter to you, and how you want to spend your day, then what will happen? Something which sounds interesting or which sounds threatening or something which is quote unquote making a loud noise is going to grab your attention. Very often that will be some email or some message from a colleague. So most people start their day and they don't know they're not very clear what they want to do. They check their email and something will grab their attention, and now they just go into a rabbit hole. They go into this particular task. After that, something else grabs their attention. They go there. And this way, a couple of things happen. One is you're working on things which are not very high value. So your mind is going towards all kinds of stuff which will typically involve firefighting or low value things or things that are relevant for other people. They are not that important to you. So bottom-up attention will rarely take you towards important things. It will take you towards things that are making a lot of noise, so to say. And if most of your attention during the day goes to things in the bottom-up manner, then chances are when your day ends, you have not accomplished much. Now, if one day produces zero output or very little output, the whole year also will not have much output. And that is why people work long hours, they slog for months and years, and they still have nothing much to show for it. On the other hand, if you start your day with a sense of prioritization and clarity, you know what is to be done. And then if you can give your attention to that thing, to the task for most of the time, I'm not saying the whole day, but at least for a lot of a day, at least for some hours in the day, then what happens is now you start making progress. Yes, when you're giving your attention to some task, your emails might be piling up, messages are not attended to, but remember, the value of these high priority things is probably 10 or 100 times more than those things that are waiting for you. And therefore, you may work the same hours, but now you are producing a lot more output. So the answer is very simple. Every day strive to ensure that your attention is not given to things in a bottom-up manner. You have sense of priority, you have clarity, you know what is important, you have a plan, and then at least for certain hours during the day, give your attention in a top-down manner to things that matter. The way you manage your attention during the day is going to determine whether you spend long hours and achieve nothing, or in a finite amount of time, you get stuff done, you feel relaxed, you have a sense of progress, and you live a good life. The quality of your life is a function of how you pay your attention.